All right. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. Is my sound quality coming through clearly?
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. All right. And now the other question, can you see my slides?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So just let me know if the sound quality goes for any reason. So as Pamela said, Pamela, thank you for that intro. I am Robyn LeBaron. I came to the US. I'm originally Canadian, came here about 25 years ago to do a PhD in anthropology, and got interested in affordable housing in New York City. And that was a career for about 15 years. When the 2008 crash came, I was recruited into the energy efficiency industry, probably like many folks on this call. My I was eventually brought in to co-manage something called the National Home Performance Council, which has since been merged with the Building Performance Association, which is one of the authors of the blueprint. And I bring this up because the mission of that organization was to figure out how to get home performance to scale. So Pamela did a wonderful job of mentioning that there are many homes out there that have high performing features. There are also many homes out there that really suck and that could really use a lot of home performance care and attention. Could be made much better. The improvements could pay for themselves, and not only would the owners realize some sort of bill savings at the end of every month, but they would also realize health benefits, comfort benefits, in some cases safety benefits. Their homes would simply be better and more livable. And again, this is almost the only investment where you get all of these benefits and they pay for themselves or more within some reasonable time frame. So from my perspective at National Home Performance Council, the question was, if this is all true, how come it is that many more homeowners aren't taking advantage of this opportunity? We were funded by the US Department of Energy. We work closely with programs like the National Home Performance with Energy Star program, which I have a tremendous amount of respect for. It has really helped to bring the idea of the house as a system and the focus on building science to the forefront of a wide range of people's knowledge and consciousness. But at the same time, it has been very slow to roll out. Few years ago now, these stats are probably somewhat dated, but I think maybe 3-4 years ago, there were 60,000 home performance and energy star upgrades. So in other words, homes upgraded through that program. And you know, that's great. That's 60,000 more homes that are better. But when you think about it, there are, you know, tens of millions of homes that need and would benefit from these upgrades. So we're really talking about a 800-year plan at that rate before they all get fixed up. And that, you know, it's losing a huge opportunity, not only for improving Americans' lives, but also for addressing major energy and carbon issues. So I wrestled with this problem, tried a number of different strategies, which I won't talk about now, for trying to figure out how to accelerate and bring the home performance and the energy, the residential energy efficiency industries to scale. One of the things that caught my attention early on was the idea that Pamela has started talking about, the idea that if you make the value of an energy efficient, high performing home visible at the time of the real estate transaction, you will make it more valuable, and that will create the virtuous cycle. If everybody knows that a high performing home sells for more, they will have an incentive to showcase their high performing features and to work to make the improvements to make their home more high performing. And that sets a cycle in motion that continues on and on. She mentioned that we authored a study in 2013. It was the first version of the blueprint, Unlocking the Value of an Energy Efficient Home. And I've put it up here on the slide along with a slide from Better Buildings. There was a lot of interest and excitement around that idea, let's say 5, 6, 8 years ago. I think that fundamental insight is absolutely valid, but the V1 implementation version looked something like this. So these are literally the 7 primary recommendations from our first blueprint, and I usually put a huge mea culpa over this slide because, you know, we're all coming from, or at least I was coming, I won't speak for anybody else on the call, but I was coming, many of my colleagues were coming from the energy efficiency industry, and it's a very data-centric, solutions-driven industry. We love our R49s and our CR14s and so on. And so the original vision was all about getting the data about these home features into the multiple listing service and into the hands of the agents. And we somewhat innocently imagined that once we had done that, the job would be over, the mission would be completed, we could swallow the piece of paper and move on with our lives, and carbon savings would roll across the land. As it has turned out, the implementation was a lot more rocky than that. And a key insight that we found is simply that if just making the data available to anybody in the real estate transaction is not enough. It's all about how the data is presented and packaged. That core insight took perhaps longer than it should have, but it took a while for me and several other friends and colleagues to wrap our minds around. When we finally did, we felt that there was a core of a idea for business there. And we played around with a number of different models. We thought about developing a nonprofit model to roll this out. We ended up starting a for-profit firm called Pearl Certification, which is a national firm. Pamela kindly mentioned me as a founder. I should note that it was co-founded by Cynthia Adams, who was, prior to co-founding Pearl, running an award-winning program in Virginia. The two of us had been tag teaming a lot, and we felt that this idea of making data about high-performing homes visible, and not only visible, but exciting and engaging at the time of sale, was really the key to an exciting business opportunity. And that after exploring it, we felt that there was enough there that it was something that we could take national, but would need some capital to achieve the right scale. So that's the genesis of Pearl. You can see this slide. We are all about making energy efficient, high-performing home features visible and engaging. And you get a sense on this slide as to what some of those features are. I will talk a little bit about the how. The how is not supposed to be an advertisement for Pearl. It's supposed to get you. We have wrestled long and hard with these programs, with these problems. We think it's worth sharing our knowledge with you. And I'm very interested in your feedback. Take these ideas away as think of them in terms. Think of our journey and our efforts as solutions to address the problems that Pamela talked about, and to walk down the path of some solutions for them. So our two pieces on the solution are, first, that we work with contractors. We help high-quality contractors explain and promote the benefits of high-performing features and high-performing upgrades to homeowners. That's a big area where work needs to be done. In general, American consumers aren't educated about the opportunities that they have to make their homes more high-performing, and they also struggle to find high-performing contractors. And then we provide the materials for real estate agents so that they can take the data about the high-performing homes and make it exciting about the time of sale. So that is our strategy for short-circuiting that 800-year path and getting America on a path that brings us to energy efficiency within a reasonable time frame. If you think about what's going on in the news these days, a reasonable time frame seems to be a 5, 10, or 15-year plan. That's the scale at which we need to act to have a real impact on carbon and climate issues. So I will just say that as part of this, we felt that we needed to develop a new certification system. There are many on the market. We like them all. We like the home energy score. We like the HERS rating. We think they have a lot of value in the market as miles per gallon ratings. We developed something that is complementary, is designed to stand beside them, and is designed to really present, to call out and talk about the benefits of individual features, which is something that those scores, for very good reasons, don't do as explicitly. So I'm going to replicate the same 3 steps, or I'm going to walk through the same 3 steps that Pamela called out in the blueprint, because I would agree with her that I think of the 7, I think there's 7 action items and 3 steps in the blueprint. These action items feel really crucial to us strategically for getting energy efficiency where we want to go. The first of those is lighting up the map. And I'm showing a map of the city of Holland, which is innovative and exciting and is actively seeking to make its residential buildings energy efficient. This is just a map of Pearl certifications in Holland. But we see a tremendous benefit in lighting up maps like these. And letting everybody know that there are inventories of high-performing homes out there. Pamela, I thought, said it extremely well. There are already either a lot of homes with high-performing features out there, or in some cases, even high-performing homes that aren't adequately recognized. They may, for example, have been built to Energy Star standards, but due to lack of advertising or knowledge on the part of either the seller or the buyer, that information is never really reflected, captured, or made use of at the time of sale. So we want to make these homes as visible as possible. And we also think that there's a real value to scale. It's not enough, even in a relatively small community, to certify 100 high-performing homes or even 500 or 1,000. You really need to be looking at large percentages of the housing stock, 5%, 10%, 20, 25, 50. That we know from survey data, including data that Pamela's firm Elevate Energy has done. Those are the sorts of numbers that will make real estate agents, real estate brokers, appraisers, bankers, all of them sit up and pay attention. So just take that away and think about it for a minute, that in many cases, we're really excited if we do 100 or 200 high-performing homes. It's a big deal. In terms of moving the real estate market, we really need to be thinking of percentages of entire markets. So we have rolled out in 4 target markets in 2019. We're planning to expand to a couple more. One of them, incidentally, is Michigan. And I probably should have shown Michigan statistics, but these numbers were right at hand. So roughly 1 million single-family owner-occupied homes in the larger Phoenix metro area. And we are, we're talking about round numbers here. To date, Pearl certified 3,000 of them. So, fantastic, way to go, Pearl. But it clearly is not enough. So our goal is to do it 10,000 by next year, 30,000 by 2022, and 100,000 by 2024. At 2024, that's really the inflection point. That's where we feel we're really going to be able to get visibility in the real estate market. And we I was going to say, imagine our best estimate with the data that we have is that that's going to represent a sort of inflection or tipping point at which people are starting to ask regularly, is this home certified? Is it high performing? Does it have a Pearl certification or a HERS index or something else? And that's just the initial inflection point. We need to move beyond that in subsequent years. So again, just I want to hammer this point home because I think the blueprint does an excellent job of calling this out. Scale is really key. And for anybody who's thinking about these issues strategically on the call, we need to be working together to think about how we get that very large critical mass of high-performing homes in any market. It's key to us. And I see I'm moving on a little bit slowly, so let me speed up rapidly here. I'll just say briefly that our key to getting those numbers is high-quality contractors. Many of you on the phone, again, have probably experienced this, that there's a tremendous difference between the top range of contractors that do the job right and the very large group of contractors at the bottom of the market that do not do it right, that have been installing HVAC systems in the way that sometimes their fathers and their grandfathers did. Our goal is really to find that limited network of very high performing contractors, not just home performance, though we love home performance contractors, but also very good HVAC, very good insulation, very good solar, plumbing, and so on, and get all of them certifying their work and getting homeowners on a path, not only to make the initial installation right, but to think about all the other improvements they could do in their home. So that's the point, that's the step about getting us to scale. Our next thing is to make the data sing. And this is where I just walk you through. This is kind of our data point, right? Like we're very building science-based. We have all these points for all of these different home features. And to Pamela's point about her own home, in a way, it's great. It's really important because this is where the building science is. To the market, it is really irrelevant unless it's packaged. So our first shot at packaging was rolling things up into asset, silver, gold, or platinum certifications. That we have just found from experience actually speaks to the market in kind of interesting ways. But even that is not sufficient. It's nice saying, giving the homeowner the ability to say that my home is a Pearl Gold is a nice talking point. But we have really found that what the crucial element in all of this is giving the real estate agent and everybody else involved in the real estate transaction a number of tools to help them market all of those features and that gold certification in a way that's exciting and engaging. So we give out, this is our particular approach to marketing. can certainly imagine others, but this is what we have found through testing. You can see it's a lot of different things: the certification report, the appraisal addendum, letters for the appraiser, the buyer, the lender, green fields report, home tour cards, and there are other resources as well, including social media callouts. Just really quickly, this is our report. It's designed, again, to call out details about the features, but to do it in a way that is well designed. It's like Pamela's nicely packaged socks, has color, has interesting, relevant information in it. And I think a really key point is focusing in on some of the features of the home that would otherwise be pretty opaque and talking about them in language that the average buyer might actually understand. Again, the Pamela home is really wonderful. So R49, who the heck knows what R49 insulation is? I mean, probably everybody on this call, honestly, but you ask your average person in the street, they have no idea what an R value is and whether 49 is good, bad, or indifferent. So one of the key features of our reports is drawing from a national database to say your attic, this attic is among the 5% best insulated attics in the state of Virginia. So the point about R49 is somewhat irrelevant. What you really need to know is, and communicate to potential buyers, is that this attic is way better than almost any other home you'll buy in the state. And that, I'm singling out attic insulation as an example, but that it goes with air conditioner efficiencies, with duct sealing, with air sealing, with efficient appliances, and so on. Next thing is to get this data into the MLS. And again, I called out our original blueprint, which was all about auto-populating and getting individual feature data in the details. That's nice, but of course, what people really look at is the pictures and that overall blurb. So our goal is to get at least our certificate into the pictures and to make sure that the certification is called out in the remarks. If the agents are doing that, it really helps to showcase the home in a different way. Then you pile on top of that what we call our home tour cards. So these are cards that are hung around the home. Pamela noted that a lot of the places where high-performing features are either invisible, they're literally behind the walls, or in the places that absolutely no buyer ever wants to go, like the attic and the basement. So the advantage of these tour cards is that they get hung around the home and they call attention to these invisible or hard to find features. And again, they use this very accessible language. This is tankless water heater. It's in the top 1% of all Virginia homes when it comes to water heating. They may never, actually look in the closet if the water heater is hidden in the closet, but they'll look at the door and they'll see that this exciting thing is hidden behind it. Or they'll just walk through a room and they'll see information about the air sealing in the home. You would be surprised at the difference this can make in the way it can shift somebody's perception of a home. It gets them thinking about all sorts of things in the home. And because they're probably viewing multiple homes, it gets them thinking, why am I not seeing information about this in other homes? We do a lot more for marketing, but I don't want to belabor the point because I think the point is not so much about what we do for this particular webinar. It's to give you the point that the data itself is pretty radically insufficient. And the data needs to be surrounded by a halo of advertising and marketing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, we were talking about real things, and what we really want to do is showcase these real things to a public that has had historically very little understanding of them. We know that this works, and this is interesting because after being in the market in Virginia for about 9 months, we did a appraiser study. We retained Sandy Adamatis, who some of you may know, to run the study. And her team of appraisers found that Pearl certified homes were selling for 5% more. That was a very neat average, almost a little bit too precise, but that was exactly how the numbers worked. But there's a huge caveat here that isn't mentioned on the slide. That was only true if the homes were marketed as Pearl certification. If they were not marketed as Pearl certification, there was, in most cases, zero premium or maybe 1 or 2%. If you think about it, that is exactly the result we want. It's the result you would have predicted from this entire presentation, that it's fine for a high-performing home to be high-performing, but if you don't market it, it doesn't make a difference. And that study gave us something of a natural experiment because, interestingly, there were a number of homes that we had certified, but for whatever reason, we did it too late, or the agent just decided that they weren't going to market the home as such. The marketing information never reached the buyers. So those are the ones that clearly did not realize the price premium. So again, we plan to do more studies, but it's a very interesting indication of how this marketing real features can actually make a tremendous difference. And finally, I just want to mention the agent training. I think that really is important. There is no reason to expect an agent to become an expert in energy efficiency. It's an unreasonable expectation. I think some people in the industry assume that this is what has to happen. My feeling very strongly is that if that's what we are expecting, we will not see any real change, because honestly, real estate agents have to be experts on all sorts of things, from mortgage lending to title issues to neighborhood amenities, you name it. You can't expect most of them to also become experts in a very technical, complex, and demanding field. But that said, you do have to give some training. You have to give them framing. You have to give them training in particular to help them understand how showcasing high-performing homes can help them as business people. That part is really crucial. And you have to help them understand how to deploy the marketing materials. So that training is necessary. In-depth training in high-performing homes is valuable. Some will really take to it, but that is not the only training that should be thought about. And since I will say, Pamela mentioned the Elevate training courses, I think that they are excellent. We give some of our own agent training, which is very much focused on leveraging Pearl as a business and marketing tool. And I think Elevate provides an interesting complement to what we do. And of course, there are other training resources out there. The National Association of Realtors also has an excellent green designee training program that real estate agents who are interested in diving more deeply should definitely explore and consider. So that's that. I spent a little bit longer than I thought, so I'm going to wrap up, and let's see if there are questions.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. We've got some questions coming in. We've got definitely some time for questions. And before we get to those questions here, just want to real quick, for those of you looking for your CEUs and you're here today right now with us in person, that survey will pop up at the end. It will also be emailed to you. Make sure to just take it once. Even if you don't need CEUs, please do take it. For those of you watching this in the future, not right now, on demand, the recording, follow the instructions either on our YouTube or USGBC channel to get your Con Ed. For those YouTube users, just go ahead and click on the YouTube logo right underneath the video. Then on the left there, go ahead and click Show More in the drop down for the details. And then go ahead and click the link that you see to access the quiz and then submit the quiz. So yeah, and some more questions are coming in. And right before we get to those questions, we want to say a huge thanks to all of our members, our board of directors, our new education and communication director, Jessica Beecham, and all of our top tier sponsors, Shrinergy for On the Go and In Your House Solar, T-Stud structurally insulated framing systems that save energy and money behind the walls, Panasonic ventilation that will meet all of your ventilation needs, from barely legal to now new smart technology through their Cosmos system, and then Mitsubishi Electric helping you get to net zero all electric and energy efficient. So yeah, let's take a look at those questions here as they're starting to come in. And you know, one of them, back to you, Pamela, was just a little bit more about those local trainings. If somebody were to reach out to you and want to get some resources or some templates, or I guess this question could be either for either of you, to do these realtor trainings, do either of you have resources for that?
I am able to teach these classes any place in the country, as long as we work through an existing school or association to get continuing education credits for them. So that's usually how I teach. People contact me and at an association level, and then we work to get the class accredited, and then I go out and give the information.
Great. And Robin,
Yes, I would defer to Pamela. Yeah, Pamela's course is much broader than what we do. We essentially limit ourselves to giving some very general energy efficiency basics, and then talking about how to use Pearl and high-performing home certifications generally as marketing tools. So it's a good supplement. Pamela's course, the Elevate course, is more holistic.
What I'll tell you is that we talk a very little bit about building science, just basically explain how energy moves in a home. We talk about what's going on where they live, with high performing homes. So I find as many numbers as I can to present. And the other thing that I really like about the class is we have a customizable, in both classes actually, a customizable module that talks about rebates and incentives that are available where they live. And then both have a module designed to marketing and listing a home.
Great, thank you. So here's as a real estate agent, do you have any recommended resources that help to make energy efficient stats easier for the market? And so this is being addressed by one of our members who is a real estate agent. And do you have any resources that help to make energy efficient stats easier for the market? For example, how would we know what percentage of homes have a particular HERS or some other kind of rating in Michigan?
I mean, generally, it's really difficult to find this data. I spend much of my time talking to the energy efficiency world, asking them to make this data easier to find. But Robin, you're actually working in Michigan. I don't know if there are places where you've seen this data out there.
No, it's really tough. Ironically, we used to bother Pamela and other folks at Elevate Energy and say, could you please, please, please make more maps of high performing homes? We've now kind of given that out. So we obviously have the map of Pearl certified homes. We're exploring a partnership with ResNet. We're actually doing a pilot partnership in Phoenix, where we develop a joint HERS Pearl certification to help folks who own a HERS rated home but don't necessarily have a good strategy for making that visible when they go to resell visible. We will probably at some point roll a version of that pilot out in Michigan as well. And when we do, we would work with ResNet to make those homes visible as well. One venue would undoubtedly be our website and our map. But in terms of the homes that have been built to other certifications or standards, it really is tough. And it might be an interesting thing for folks on this phone call to collaborate on as a subsequent follow-up project. And maybe that stopped the conversation midstream.
Sorry, I was talking through mute here. So that does kind of get into one of the questions I was going to ask you, and it sounds like I might have the answer here. But there are what we call two green building certification registries that do exist out there at a national scope. One of them is through the GBCI Green Building Certificate Institute, and that one lists not only all the LEED certified projects, but also other various rating systems. I believe they partner with folks like Pearl if you wanted to add your stuff onto their site. But and then there's another green building certification registry, and all their names are swirling in my brain right now because they're so close. But the one through Earth Advantage also has all residential homes on it, LEED homes, some home energy score. So it does exist out there, but it seems like there's depending on what you're trying to look for, there are several of them out there. So, but it sounds like that's something, Pearl, you haven't been in touch with either of them, correct?
We actually have, and it's a small industry. We like everybody you mentioned, and particularly with Earth Advantage, we've had talks again about how we might collaborate and share data. And part of the problem is we're all just working so fast that we haven't had time to figure out how to do that. Interestingly, their markets tend not, the states where they're most active tend to be the states where we are not most active. So we haven't as yet had a particularly practical reason to meet, but I'm sure at some point we will, and we'll have to figure this out. Because I think at very least having the respective databases speak to each other is something that would benefit the entire industry.
Yeah, thank you. So the next question that came up here on Pearl specifically is are you just focused on energy efficiency features, or are you looking at other aspects like what we call the 5 pillars of green? So, you've got energy, but then you've got health, materials, water in place. Do you look at any of those other aspects?
Yeah, I'm so glad somebody asked, because I didn't want to talk too deeply about our system. We started out with energy efficiency because that was what we were most directly subject matter experts in. We very quickly moved to renewables as well, just because there was a very intense market demand for more visibility around there. That's a whole separate conversation. And during 2020, we plan to add water efficiency, health and indoor air quality, and resilience. Materials we have not thought as deeply about as we probably should. So whoever asked the question, I would be very interested in having a follow-up there.
And then the other question is, can you, in your Virginia study on the 5% value of homes that were marketed, was there any differentiation in that value going in one direction or another between basic certification, silver, gold, and platinum?
There was, it's interesting. We get asked that a lot. Very little in terms of gold, silver, and platinum. The basic asset certification is circles back to something Pamela was saying, that if you've got a wonderful gas furnace, showcase that. That's what our asset certification does. That clearly generated much less resale value. But for gold, silver, platinum, there was not so much differentiation. Like it wasn't statistically significant. So we plan to do another study and see where that goes. But a lot of the silver homes that we certified through that study were actually pretty high quality. You know, they had multiple systems improved. So that may have been partly a reflection of the fact that the homes bundled fairly tightly together, with a couple of really high quality platinums as an exception.
So one question I have is, I don't know if either of you have heard of the sort of growing HVAC, basically renamed recently HVAC 2.0 movement. But the idea is that if you take a step back, a lot of the homes that end up doing anything like this, kind of as far as improvements go, typically nobody's asking for anything like this until they have a major HVAC failure, right? Their heating or their cooling system goes, and then at that point they start thinking about these kinds of things. Otherwise, I think in fairness, most of us really aren't, right? And so the idea of the HVAC 2.0 movement is that HVAC who are sort of going a little bit above and beyond and maybe showing up with more sales, more understanding of Pearl, more connections to green realtors, with a blower door test, and also who do air sealing and insulation, show up to homes and make more holistic recommendations, during that kind of touch point, and that if that were the case, we would have way more homes making improvements, because most homes doing this are doing it usually on an emergency basis. So I guess my question is, have you heard of that, and has there been any thought to sort of integrate with that sort of, this is the time to make the improvement because now is the time when you got to spend because you have a problem?
Pamela, maybe we should both speak to that one. Would you like to start, or do you want me to?
No, I actually think that the home improvement plan speaks to that issue really well.
All right, I'll take a quick cut at it. So, it's funny, Brett, in a way you're outlining the Pearl business model. I don't want to dive too deeply into it because this is not about us, but that is the idea that you get the consumer at the point of break fix and then put them on a pathway to making further improvements is exactly how we plan to get to scale. So in that context, the HVAC 2.0 folks are just wonderful. And I think this whole idea about thinking the centrality of HVAC in the home and how we communicate that is crucially important. Again, I don't want to be too product specific, but I think this is important. We really see not only the nameplate efficiencies on HVAC, but how it's installed, whether or not there's been a quality installation, whether or not there's been performance testing, as absolutely crucial. We give points away, and we give as many or more points for those features as we do for simple nameplate efficiencies, because we all know that a badly installed HVAC system could easily perform at 30% or 30 or 40% energy penalty just because of installation. But the problem is that the general public is absolutely not aware of this. You ask somebody and they say, well, was installed according to a quality installation procedure? And they say, well, of course, I had a qualified technician do it. So there's a tremendous amount of market education that I think we should be doing around this. And anybody who's involved in efforts to surface that in public consciousness, HVAC 2.0, NCI, folks at ACA with their quality install program, different people have different ways of going about it, but just having this national conversation about the importance of HVAC and it being installed appropriately is huge. And of course, that then kind of ties in with discussions about all electrification, right? And what's the future of HVAC technologies? So it feels like a really interesting and important conversation to have. And the more people having it, bringing creativity, the better. And we really want to support everything going on, good that's going on in those conversations.
Thank you. Pamela, this will be our last question, I believe, and a very specific one, and I'll add a little bit
I saw that.
Yeah, and up to you if you want to answer, but I guess to add more to the question, and I'll ask the question here, but the specific question is, what kind of insulation is used in your rim band? Is it fiberglass, spray foam? But more importantly, just holistically, I mean, do you have a Pearl certification, a home energy score certification, or a label on your house? Can you tell us a little bit more about the sustainability, or not? That's fair enough. It's just kind of cool to talk about, us in the industry, what we are actually doing in our homes too. So.
Okay, so it is spray foam. And I have the house spray foam to the nth degree. And I do think it's important to remember, this is actually why certification is so important. I live in a 100-year-old house. It's always going to be somewhat leaky. It's just the way it is, until I become a millionaire. And that's okay. But what I can tell you is that my house is much better than one 3 doors down that was built by the exact same builder. And if we decide to move at the same time, if I don't very specifically call out what I've done and explain why spray foam is such a big deal in the rim joist, it doesn't matter. And that's why when we talk about these things, we have to be so deliberate about the words that we choose, because people only have so long of an attention span. And when I spoke earlier about nobody buys a home because the utility bills are lower, it's true. That's not what motivates someone to buy a home. So it needs to be marketed in a different way, about indoor air quality and health of your family and year-round comfort. I do live in Chicago. It's uncomfortable, I would say 8 months out of the year, because it's winter that entire time. And for someone to move into a 100-year-old house that's charming and understand that their comfort level will be different than the one 3 doors down, that's worth more money. And so that's why this marketing piece is it really just is crucial. And I don't have a Pearl certification because Pearl is not in the Chicago market, but what I do have is a high performance with Energy Star Illinois home performance certificate. And I briefly put my house on the market a couple years ago, and we took a picture of that certificate and added it to the gallery, not because anybody would know what that certificate was, but if it was in the gallery, it was probably important enough to look up and maybe do a little research on that.
Well, great. I think that was a perfect ending, and I appreciate you sharing it in that context too. So, well, we're just a little bit after our time here. So right before we wrap up, and Robyn, maybe I'll start with you and then move to you, Pamela. Where can people contact you and find out more information if they'd like to?
I see this slide is up with email. I don't see a phone number. I'm happy to give it out. It's 646-416-2650. But that said, email is a great way to contact me, and very interested in talking to anybody on the phone who's interested in these issues. So feel welcome to reach out.
And that's Robyn at pearlcertification.com in case anyone can't see it.
That's correct. Yep.
Oh, thank you. And Pamela, where can people contact you if they want to learn more?
So it's Pamela j.brookstein@elevateenergy.org, and my phone number is 773-269-2220.
Great. Well, thank you all. Thank you both for your time today. Have a great rest of your week. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.